Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Skull Session Recruiting Podcast, brought to you by BuckeyeHuddle.com. I am Mark Givler. Got Kevin Noon with me today. Another commitment episode here today. Ohio State lands five-star defensive end Eddrick Houston out of Buford, Georgia. Huge pickup, beat out Georgia, Alabama, Clemson, basically all the nation's top programs to get Eddrick's commitment. This has been something we've been, saying for a while. We felt good about Ohio State's chances, but the way this summer has gone with, missing some guys maybe people thought they were going to getting some guys people maybe didn't think they were going to get. You never know until the hay is in the barn on this stuff. So, Kevin, just, initial reaction to the big news at a position of really serious need for Ohio State.
Yeah, absolutely. A huge need. Ohio State kind of fulfilled what it needed at defensive tackle, at least with one body with Justin Scott, but defensive end, people certainly have had concerns. We had the opportunity to see Eddrick Houston while we were in the South on a trip, and he's what you're looking for. I mean, if you're building that defensive end type of guy, I mean, Eddrick Houston certainly has the look of him. I mean, he listed in a lot of the databases like 6'3", 265, 270, depending on what you see. Those heights and weights are not always updated all the time, but I think he's somebody that comes in immediately and gets mentioned a lot. Now, we have to see kind of how it translates. We've seen one game of his senior season so far, so there's still a lot of football left to be played for him before he arrives in Columbus at any point. Still has to sign, but this is a huge get, and I think the offer list will certainly be able to support that with him being wanted by just about everybody.
Yeah, and one of the first things people are going to say, well, is he going to move inside? I don't see it that way. I know Ohio State doesn't see it that way. One of the things I wanted to see for myself when we saw him back in the spring was, okay, is this a guy who is this Adolphus Washington, or is this, like a, not, I was going to say Sam Hubbard, but Sam didn't even play defensive end in high school, or is this like a Chase Young, I guess. Eddrick is going to play outside. The thing that jumped out to me was his flexibility at his size, his ability to bend, get around the edge. That is something that's, I think, very unique and special about him. Plays with such a tremendous motor here. His first play on his highlight film is him kind of making a play out of his area, just not giving up on a play. But he's got a tremendous get off, and he's got that, again, he's got that flexibility to get around the edge here. He's got a really impressive array of power rushing moves. He can kind of do that long arm with you. He can bull rush. There's the spin move there. And then just, again, you're going to see a lot of this on both his highlight tape from the junior season. And if you go to our YouTube channel, we have some spring game clips where he makes a lot of plays out of his area. So he never gives up on a play. And that's really something I noticed about him during their spring game that we watched back in May. But I don't see, and I'm usually the first person to say, oh, he's going to have to move inside, or this guy's going to have to move down from safety to linebacker. Like, I'm usually one of the first people to play that hit. But this is not one of those situations, I don't think. And I think you would see Ohio State approaching defensive line recruiting a lot differently in this class if they thought that was the case too. They're recruiting him strictly as a defensive end. And quite frankly, it's a big part of why they were able to pull him out of the South. His relationship with Larry Johnson, very key, of course, but also scheme fit. Ohio State, you're a defensive end. You're a classic kind of strong side defensive end prospect. And, teams like Alabama and Georgia are more 3-4 defense, 3-man fronts. And so he's not Dallas Turner. He's not a 6'3.5", 235 pound, speed, or for Ohio State fans, he's not a Noah Spence. He's much more of your classic, he's going to play about 6'4", about 275, 280 pounds. He's going to be kind of your big classic strong side end who can get after the quarterback.
Yeah, he's not just a name that is on the board right now. He's not Booker Pickett by any stretch of the imagination, who's very slight. He is going to be that bigger type of strong side defensive end. And I think that he's somebody that probably still doesn't know how good he is. I'm going to be excited to see what he looks like in the Ohio State system once he gets coached up a little. I mean, he's getting great coaching at Buford. I mean, Buford is a tremendous power in the state of Georgia. For those of you who only casually follow recruiting, It's not a case as if that, he has not even been developed a little bit. He has a lot of development, but the amount of development that will happen once he gets here to the next level will be immense. And I think that he's somebody that, for everybody who wants to talk about all of the misses as of late, the Marquise Lightfoots, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, I think you should be celebrating this hit as much as you lament the miss.
Oh, it's a huge pickup. Where they got him from, who they got him over, what the position he plays. Well, Ohio State, needs these defensive ends. Might be another show. I'm not giving up on Marquise Lightfoot just yet. But it's not been for the second year in a row. It's maybe not what Ohio State hoped defensive end recruiting would look like at this point in the recruiting calendar. So there are some, there's some ground to make up for them here as they try and close out defensive end. One thing I kind of wanted to point out, wasn't show up too much on the film, but Eddrick also does play some tight end. I don't know how much he'll do that this year for Buford, but he does 7-on-7s, plays tight end. He's very athletic. So if you can go out there on a 7-on-7 and just, dominate a tight end, I don't think you're moving inside, but I'll put it to you this way. I'm much less convinced he would have to move inside than I was of JT Tuimoloau. So, and JT has been able to stay outside, and JT was an even bigger bodied kid than Eddrick coming out of high school. So I think this will be fine. I think he'll play outside, and I think he's gonna be one of those dominant kind of two-way defensive ends that you can't really run at him, but he can also get after the quarterback too. So you can't forget about him in the pass rushing game. So, and Larry Johnson loves to move those guys inside for the rushman package on third and long. This is like your prototype guy for that. So I think it's a huge pickup. I guess this is time. Where does Ohio State go from here now at defensive end? Marquise Lightfoot to Miami, Dylan Stewart to South Carolina. Let's start with Dylan Stewart. I know I was in the minority on that one. I did not feel good about that for Ohio State. And I guess I shouldn't sit here and be like, oh, I just nailed it the whole time. It wasn't so much that I had this like info that nobody else had, I don't think, on that. It was just a collection of things that kept bringing me back to South Carolina for him. First of all, the fact that his top three was Ohio State, South Carolina, Miami, for a guy who's maybe one of the 5 or 6 best players in the country, is kind of strange. Should give Ohio State fans pause that, it's not Georgia and Alabama and Clemson and USC, but it's, two programs that, you don't really see a lot of head-to-heads with Ohio State. But it really started to hit for me coming out of his official about a week or two after that, when there was talk about him coming back to Ohio State at the end of July. And he had set another visit to South Carolina for the end of July in that like 5-day window where kids could go somewhere else. And I thought after that official visit to Ohio State, which by all accounts went very well, he talked to people who thought it went really, really well. They were in the lead for him. Yet he didn't change that visit. And even kind of leading up to the last couple of weeks of July, I was kind of asking Ohio State contacts like, hey, like, are you guys expecting Dylan Stewart at the end of July? And no, like, hopefully hopefully we'll get him back, hopefully get him back during the season. I'm like, during the season, that's going to be over by then. So there were some things that were happening there down the stretch. Didn't sit right. I'm sure they're going to keep at it with him, but Kevin, do you think they can get back in it with Dylan Stewart? How much does a commitment to South Carolina mean at this point? What if South Carolina goes 5-7 this year?
Right. And it felt weird why was South Carolina in the mix? So you had to figure there was something really drawing him there. And it just feels that one is a little bit, I think, more difficult to pull the kid off of that commitment. Yeah, I guess if South Carolina goes 5-7 and, all things can be examined, but does he see himself, taking a Jadeveon Clowney type of path or whatever? And I know it's a different coaching staff than the Shane Beamer staff that's there now. I think that it might be a really difficult pull. I mean, I think if Ohio State's as good as we think they could be, and if, we do see these changes that have been talked about this season with Ohio State's defense more being focused on stopping the run, and that'll predicate everything else happening. I think a revisit could happen. I mean, maybe you do get him on campus to take a look, but I think when it's all said and done, I think he sticks that one out.
Yeah, and there were some other factors that kind of gave me a little bit of pause, but really it was the old adage of kind of watching what he was doing, and just trying to put the pieces together of the clues he was giving and kind of in what his actions were doing, what his actions were showing us. But there's some ties. They got Nicholas Harbor out of the DMV last year, so they've recruited the area hard. They've done well there. They've had success there. A lot of their guys on defense and Shane Beamer are familiar with maybe not DMV, but like the coastal part of the country. So it's not like these are, so there's some, guys have been recruiting those territories for a while. So there are some things there, I think, that helped South Carolina, of course, just from that perspective. But it just, when he came out of that official and all the buzz was about Ohio State and he kept that South Carolina visit at the end of July, I'm like, I don't think so. Now that brings us to Marquise Lightfoot, and that's a different one for me. And I really thought they were going to get him. Obviously they commits to Miami, and we can sit here and we can do the narrative of, NIL this and NIL that. But I'm not going to go down that road here. I am going to lay out, a few things. I think, I think that there are people in Marquise Lightfoot's corner who weren't thrilled with the Miami decision. Marquise is from Chicago. That's a very easy way. It is easy to get to Columbus from Chicago. It's drivable, obviously. You can get there about 5.5 hours in a car, or for about, $150, you can get a 45-minute flight. So it's super easy for his family, people close to him, to come see him play. He himself was enamored with Larry Johnson. I know the family was too. I think there was a preference there to kind of have him be mentored by Larry Johnson by some people in his corner. Now, they're not going to force him back to Ohio State, obviously. The Miami commitment would have never happened if there was a situation like that. They're going to let him go through his own process here. But, the early commitment to Miami, there's still some time for kind of some people to lean on him a little bit. And there's still some time to kind of see how this year plays out. If Ohio State, if Jack Sawyer and JT Tuimoloau are 3 and done and get drafted, and look like they're going to be drafted very highly, and KJ2, Kenyatta Jackson, has a breakout season and he'll be draft eligible next year, that could really, I think, tilt things over the edge when you combine that with maybe some local, prodding about Ohio State. But maybe I'm just still stuck on, I can't believe he didn't go to pick Ohio State the first time.
Yeah, I don't have a really high percentage of belief that he will sign with Miami. I really don't. And, it kind of felt like the emotional pick. And I know that these kids spend a lot of time agonizing over all these things. It's not generally, this isn't a case of, he came off a visit and he committed, and now it's like, well, now I got to figure out what to do with it. But it still kind of feels like the emotional pick. And I'm not sold on Miami. I'm just not. I think that they're going to struggle once again this year, and there will be questions in there. And I think that if you have people in your ear saying, well, why do you really, what is it about Miami that you want to go there for? This is what they're putting on the field right now, and they're going and getting, they're landing a lot of talented kids, and they're just not necessarily getting a whole heck of a lot better. So I think Ohio State still really has better than a puncher's chance in this one. I think Ohio State just needs to stay the course, not apply too much direct pressure to it, because I think that could turn the kid off. But I think that there is a real shot that Ohio State could flip him by the time we get into November.
And that'll be another thing kind of on the flip side of what we talked about with Dylan Stewart, like watching the actions and kind of putting the pieces together. You know, if we're sitting here at the end of September and Ohio State hasn't put out a slew of new defensive end offers, one of two things is happening. They're either feeling very, very good about Marquise Lightfoot flipping, or we're having some malpractice going on because they don't have a lot of plan Bs right now. There's a couple guys in state worth watching. Brian Robinson's now at Westerville North, right up the road. Hasn't played a lot of football. I think that's been the big thing is, dominate on Friday nights. That's why he doesn't have the Ohio State offer. So that's something maybe to watch. I really like Dominic Kirks at Cleveland St. Joe's, but he's, we talked about Eddrick at the beginning. Is he inside or outside? I think he's one of those guys who probably grows into a 3-tech. That being said, I'd still be recruiting him if I were Ohio State, and maybe they will. I'm sure they're going to look at his film the first few weeks of the season. But so there's not a ton of plan B. So if you don't see Ohio State offering a lot of plan Bs, or finding some kids that have these dominant first 4 or 5 weeks of the season, that I think should be a tell on where they think they are with trying to flip some of these guys. But we will see what happens. In the meantime, huge news for the Buckeyes today with landing Eddrick Houston. Again, this is a Von Bell-esque type of pickup. I mean, this is a big pickup. In an out-of-state recruiting battle. And so next time everyone tells me, well, they never beat Alabama or Georgia, I'm going to point to Eddrick Houston. So we will see. We'll hopefully see him pretty soon on the field here. I've got some stuff planned here the next few weeks. So we'll see if we can get down there and take a look at Eddrick again. But appreciate everyone watching and appreciate everyone listening. And we'll talk to you soon.